There's something to be said for normalcy, especially this kind of year. It's, you know, the holidays just ended, a whole lot of excitement, a whole lot of, celebration, a whole lot of trying new things, a whole lot of the unexpected. There's something nice about settling back into a routine. What kind of routine, do you ask? Being able to set your roster and having, those powers back. Big trades happening, teams freeing up cap. And of course, the $118 million mistake that was Brock Purdy having his salary drop under $30 million. Again, everything is fine. Everything is back to normal. And now we get to have a nice, normal off season where everything is crazy and everyone completely loses their mind. But, that's part of the fun of fantasy football, and that's just part of the fun of the league. So we're off to a rapid start here in the first 72 hours of the league, with things opening back up on Monday morning. 89 transactions so far, so we'll talk about that a little bit in terms of what those have been from a roster space clearing and a trade perspective. And then, depending on where we are at the end of the conversation, we might dive into a couple of previews. But I'm really happy to have my regular co-host, the Eagles, back on with me, RJ. Thanks for making the time, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's good to be back. I know I missed a couple of them, but yeah, just glad to be here.
Everyone needs a break from time to time. I was home for 2 straight weeks, which was, just kind of a built-in break for me. But it's nice to be able to step away and relax and really not consume a whole lot of fantasy football for a while. It helps recharge the batteries and get you ready for the next phase here as we start getting ready for draft season, free agency, and just the general craziness. But before we have all that, we have the actual NFL playoffs. The 14 team set is ready to roll. Games start again this weekend. I think with the prime game kicking things off and going through Monday night again, because obviously we need a Monday night football game when there's only when there's seven of them, or six of them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyways, but for those of us who aren't in the real football, we're into fantasy football. So last episode we talked about some of the major rule changes. Appreciate Chris joining us for those and taking us through the implications of those. I think there may have been some minor tweaks based off of the feedback from there, but overall, most of those went in. I'm still heartbroken that the trade czar went ignored for yet another year. I think it's one of those things that we continue to bring up as both a serious addition that we'd like to see, as well as a joke about that serious tradition and change we'd like to see. So who knows? Maybe one of these days it'll get fixed. But you know what? It's interesting to see people turn down free help. Moving over to said transactions that have taken place, if I filter what has happened so far, I think we've had, what do you think, 10 trades? Seven. 7 trades have happened so far. The rest of these have been primarily roster clearing of folks who are not going to qualify for a comp pick, but at the same time is dead cap or dead roster that folks just don't want to deal with. So looking at it, we've got, again, a lot of demotions and drops of one-year guys, a lot of defenses and kickers and punters, not defenses, kickers and punters hitting the wire. 1 years clearing of taxi squads, clearing of IRs. Any drops that you've seen so far that you were surprised by, RJ, or is it just kind of what you were expecting?
No, it's all pretty pretty expected. Nothing too. I'm more shocked that there were waiver claims. So I know, what was it? Zay Jones got claimed. That's a bit much. Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, Zay Jones and I can't pronounce that name. Justin Aboji. Boji?
Sounds about right.
I had never heard of that person before.
Yeah, I just don't want to. I don't want to be the person picking up somebody's junk at the end of the season when we don't know like what their standing's going to be going through the off season. Like, sure, if it was a marquee player, but I think like Zay Jones is one example. Like, is he really going to be a starter next year or something? Like, is he going to go unharmed throughout the draft process by being like pushed out by a rookie or something like that? Probably not likely. Like,
yeah, and again,
he's
I don't hate this either. Boji Billups, looking at it, was rookie this year. Real life 4th round, 5th round in our league, mint salary in our league, but it looked like he was starting to get a couple of snaps near the end of the year while he was fighting some injury. And
you said the other one was a rookie?
Yeah, that was the rookie.
Oh, that one's fine. I mean, if they have a 4th round draft capital in real life, then yeah, you want to hold on to somebody like that.
But yeah, again, worth taking a shot on. So that was the waiver claim portion. Let's see, have we seen any tags yet? A couple of tags. Go over Stewart, get a non-exclusive tag. Exclusive tag on Julian Love. Exclusive tag on Chauncey Golston. And non-exclusive tag on Brenton Cox. Not gonna lie, nobody making me super excited out of that group.
Nope.
Let's see the taxi claims. Then we get to contract extensions. I think we just had the one extension of Josh Allen, extension taking place after a certain renegotiation. So we'll get to that in a second. But Allen adds 3 years and jumps to, I think, $52 million. And then, what do you think? Should we talk about some renegotiations?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic to me.
All right. A couple of these happened so far. Let's see. Broncos was first in, renegotiating Christian Wilkins. He is bumped to a 6-year contract and is a $10 million defensive tackle at this point. But that's a good size savings, so good on him for that. Brandon Ayuk dropping to half price, not a bad thing. Went from $19 million to $9.5. Brock Purdy dropping from $116 to $58 million. Nate Landman dropping from $33 million to $16,875. And then the controversial second renegotiation of Brock Purdy. Look, I got to give credit where credit is due. Another owner turned me on to this. I won't necessarily call him out in front of the entire league, but having Brock Purdy on my team after renegotiating him, I had made a joke to the Bears saying he was looking for renegotiation candidates on offense and said, I've got just the guy for you. And then I had Nona reach out to me and say, I'm actually interested in getting Purdy so I can renegotiate him again. So when I renegotiated him, he went from 2 years to 4 years. So technically 2 more years on top of that is a second renegotiation possible. So Pats did, renegotiated Purdy again, and because he was QB12, he dropped to $29 million, 12,500. So was $116 million and is now under 30. Just in time for the renegotiation rules to change and to make sure nothing like this can happen again. So what a wonderful way to close the book on everything here.
Perfect. I love it. It's amazing.
And then, of course, Kirk Cousins can't get the 2 years of renegotiation because he's at 5 years right now. So it's too bad, but at the same time, maybe a blessing in disguise because what is it this year and is it this upcoming year or the next year that our retirement rules come into effect?
I believe it is the next off season, not this coming one. But I could be wrong on that. Hopefully, he can get out of that contract this off season. But I don't know. Kirk might be looking for a job.
That could be one where, yeah, things turn bad on that contract in a hurry. I'm kind of excited for that to happen, to be honest. The cap impact of all of those and all of those cap hits as a result, not coming off, I think is going to make the free agent situation a little bit more interesting, especially when it comes to throwing some of these contracts around. So I'm all for it. It's too bad that it doesn't work for 49ers this offseason, but in the meantime, not a bad situation to not add years to that contract.
Yeah. I think with the retirement and that changing, I think that's going to be interesting as far as the price of veterans and like how we move them. Just because if they have too many years on their contract, that might make them far less appealing.
Yep. All right. So that's everything else. Should we talk about trades? Do you think that's something that's interesting to people?
Oh, that's the only reason why anybody listens, I'd imagine.
I had a feeling. 7 trades have happened so far. No surprise to anybody. Every single trade involved one of myself, Colts, or Giants. So, yeah, kind of like I said, it's nice having things back to normal and back to the usual. This is normal and usual. Kicking things off, first out of the year was, I don't know, close to a good 4 to 6 hours after things opened up. We did not necessarily have the flurry of trades waiting to get processed like we have in years past. This one was Colts, who had bought in on Baker midseason last year to kind of lock him down, flipping Baker and a third for the Colt for his 26 first back. The Panthers 26 second and his 26 second back. So he gets his draft capital back next year, plus the Carolina second for Baker and a third. I tell you, if the plan here is to tank, then that's there are worse prices to pay than that. I'd say Baker is probably a Pro Bowl quarter. Is he a Pro Bowl quarterback this year? Yeah, 24 Pro Bowl. Pro Bowl quarterback at $13.2 million. So, definitely, I would rather have Baker than probably any of the quarterbacks in this year's draft. So, paying the price to get a player like that, but Colts gets secure his draft capital for 26, so gives him the flexibility to do what he wants. So, it's a tough asset to sell, but I understand why he's selling it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a pretty decent price for a top 4 quarterback. Like he finished as QB4 this year in points.
Yeah,
and points per game. Like that's
only Evans barely hit 1,000 yards. Godwin was out for the better half of the year, and McMillan didn't really come on until the end of the year. So you got all 3 of those guys coming back. You have Otton, who's looking good at times when he's needed to, and the backfield has been pretty good at catching stuff out of there. So it's not like Baker's in a tough situation really next year. He seems, as long as kind of the offensive system stays in place, he's in a good spot.
Yeah, he's one of the safer quarterbacks, and it's like, I think it's fantastic for both of them. Colts gets his first back, so like we have an idea of it. If he wants to tank, he has the opportunity now. He has his first and his second, and he only gave up one player. Sure, it's a quarterback, but it's replaceable with the picks that he got. But for the Saints side, like he only paid one first for a top 4 quarterback. So, like, fantastic win all around.
Very true. I mean, it's interesting. There's a concept I kind of started putting out there last year that this is kind of the sequel to. One of the things I was thinking about was if you're selling your future pick, but you've baked in what the price of that pick is going to be when you sold it, is it such a bad thing to sell it, even if you're tanking? Like, for example, if I'm tanking and I get what amounts to, say, the 103 or 104 for my pick, if I tank and I finish as the third or fourth, worst team, then I've already gotten the value for that pick, but I got it in advance. So maybe not the worst thing. And even if I'm not trying to win and I figure finish the 6th or 7th, then it's a plus value because even though I wasn't trying to win, the value I got back was exceeding what that pick ended up being. This is almost the antithesis of that. By making a move like this, if he doesn't tank or if he doesn't get like a 103 value for his picks when he does sell, it almost makes it not worth it. So one side is almost a thinking in terms of like finance. One is sort of borrowing against, and this is kind of the paying it back, and it really tightens up kind of what he needs to do if he wants to retain the value from the deal.
Yep. Yeah, there's only one way that you can really go with that at this point, and that's, I mean, don't get me wrong, things can change, but as of right now, he's kind of, with that price, he's kind of setting himself up to have to tank this year.
Yeah, well, he and Dolphins are looking to corner the market on 26 picks, so give it time. They'll have half the draft here by the time we're done with the offseason.
Oh, that'd be funny.
Colts wasn't done, though. Continued picking up some cast-off players from Steelers, Tom and Fox, Jake Hansen, Jair Alexander, and took a 5th-rounder for the Broncos to dump those players on him. Any of those bad contracts? Or 3.45 for Tomlin, just under 4 for Hansen, and around 8. But these were all 1-year deals, I think, right? Yeah, so I mean, it was temporary cap relief to get maybe an extra $7 or $8 million this year for a 5th. I mean, yeah, I'm sure Colts is happy to do that.
Yep.
I didn't realize was Steelers really that cap strapped in terms of activating people,
or Rashid Shaheed.
Well, he's got $34 million right now, so he needs half of what's on his cap to be able to activate those guys. He's got $33 million on his cap or on his injured reserve. So activating those requires 16.5. So what he traded away just by cutting, he should have still had enough. Does he have to extend anybody or? Oh, I don't know. Fred Warner. But he did not have a Pro Bowl season. I don't know what his points per game were. But he's got 2 years left, so he might need to get extended. Lawrence's 5th-year option kicks in next year, so that's probably what it's doing. Okay, so he's picked up the 5th-year option on Lawrence, so as a result, he probably has to extend him this offseason. That makes some sense then. Okay. Speaking of contract dumps, Giants dumping MVS, Tylan Wallace, Dalvin Tomlinson, Von Miller for the price of the Cardinals 5th. Let's see, what was the cap number dropped? About $1.1 million for MVS. 5.5 for Wallace, 1.5 for Tomlinson, and 26 million for Vaughn. So Steelers does it to free up 8 million. Giants does it to free up 30 million. That kind of sounds like par for the course.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, okay. So we're doing this now?
Doing what now?
No, that was Giants' response to the Steelers Colts was like, oh, okay, so like this is acceptable now, and then just an even bigger cap dump.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we're doing cap dumps. Hold my beer.
Yep.
But yeah, that is a big old cap dump. Again, I don't think Chargers cares because it comes off his cap before next year, and he picks up a fifth in the process. So kind of who cares? But yeah, it's classic Giants. It's somebody got something, and I want someone bigger for it.
I think Giants is just clearing the way to try to make some moves, which very understandable.
He's always clearing the way to try and make some moves. That's what he's doing. Always.
I'm a mover.
I know. I understand. That's what I'm saying.
Was this about the cap dump trade?
Yeah, we were saying, hey, here's a fifth rounder to clear 8 million. He's like, fifth rounder to clear some cap. Hold my beer. Fifth rounder to clear 30 million in cap space.
Hey, it was an earlier fifth at least,
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with it. I just appreciate the like piggybacking off of another one. Like, oh, these are acceptable trade models that we're doing right now. All right, well, I'll do this then.
Yeah. Well, I sent that out to like 5 people. So when whoever asked, like, is anyone taking cap dumps? I just anyone who said yes, I just kept sending the offers.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, anyone who's got cap space who doesn't need it for extensions right now, it's a reasonable thing to do. Hey, here's an extra pick, and take this, and it doesn't inconvenience you, but it helps me.
Yep.
All right. Colts and Panthers kicking off their first deal in between bickering with each other. They were able to make a couple deals here. This one was Bradley Chubb for Muhammad Al-Qadim, Demarion Overshone, Josh Butler, and Denzel Ward. I think Al-Qadim is expiring in terms of his contract. Yeah, it's $8 million off there.
Overshone.
Yeah, Overshone $1 million for 3 years for that.
Yeah, but he'll be out most of next year. But like, it seems like Colts is just gonna tank next year for one of the quarterbacks the following year, so he can sit out the injury.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. And look, I'm happy to get that price if I'm Colts. I'm getting 20 million dumped on me, fine, and I'm picking up Overshone in the process. I was talking to RJ before the pod. I'm just not a Brad Chubb fan right now. I don't know what the hell's going on in Miami. So they seem to have a plentiful assortment of pass rushers at the moment, but yet not exactly the best defense there right now. People are trying to ask out. They did not have a very strong season despite having all of the offensive pieces you'd want to have a strong season. And Bradley Chubb didn't really play this year. So all that in mind, I think picking up an injured Overshone and eating 20 million of cap space this year that doesn't really impact you, I think that's a great ad for him. And look, Brad Chubb was a top 15 DN the year before. If he's back to that, it's a great ad. If he's not, I don't think that's completely out of the question, but he is only 28. So you know what? It could go either way. It's not the worst risk either.
Does he have a birthday soon?
Is it his birthday soon?
Yeah.
June. So he'll be 29 before the season starts.
So yeah, he'll be 29 in this season. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get to. Yeah, I think I'm also kind of out on Chubb. He was always hurt. I know, like, last year or whatever, when he was top 15 or whatever you said, Mike. Like, think it was like his only healthy season. And then he didn't even finish healthy, right? Obviously, because he has this injury. So I don't know. I mean, Overshown was like incredible this year. Like even like just like watching the games, like he just really popped off. So if he keeps that role when he comes back, I think that's a great get. But ultimately, like you're getting younger and cheaper at a less prime position. But I think it may make sense for Colts plan.
That's a lot of L's to be messed up in one knee. I'm not optimistic on Overshown.
Mm.
ACL, MCL, PCL? No, thank you. But also, we thought Bradley Chubb was going to return at some point this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, he never actually played, right?
I don't think he played.
So if both of them are happy, then I'm happy for them. But I think the two big players in that trade are players that I want nothing to do with.
Yeah.
Yep. Player for player swap, which is a nice thing this time of year. I think Panthers said anyone who wants to give me anything for Javon Holland, he's yours. I responded with a very classy and not sarcastic comment about nuts. And Giants showed his by offering up a corner and getting accepted. So picking up Javon Holland, who was a pretty cheap safety option for a while. Seems to not necessarily have had the best year, but contributed some for DJ Turner.
Yeah, I think that's a fine trade. Turner's was a good corner when he was there. He did go out halfway through the season. Holland's good. He wasn't super effective this year, but I think we'd struggle to find Miami players that were effective this year in any position. So down year for the team as a whole. He's still a really good player. I think the biggest issue with him is the contract associated with him. Sure, if you want to renegotiate him, but do you want to be tied to the same safety for 6 years just to have him at $4 million or under 4? So
yeah, it's too bad because I remember Holland had a really nice contract and I guess got caught in a situation where it just didn't get extended at the right time. And when it did get extended, it was a lot more expensive than it should have been. So he's one of those guys who went from, wow, the value of having Holland at, a safety, 200 points at safety for $600K to, 98 points at safety for $8 million. Not so great.
Yeah, I think that was one of those where it was just a mistake on like trying to renegotiate a rookie contract. Somebody didn't realize that it was just a forced renegotiation.
Or again, it was just one of those where it's like, who cares? It's a couple $1 million. We got $1 billion of free agency money flying around. Who gives a shit?
That's true. Yeah, it happened in the past, and there have been multiple times where people just extend people at the wrong time just because they have the money to burn.
Yep. All right. The fun now. Again, we appreciate things feeling normal and things feeling like they should. And we'd all lamented how long it had been since we had a Brock Purdy trade. And you know me, I just want to give the people what they want. And after bringing down his price to $58 million, I was happy to send him back to an owner that I couldn't trade with last year because of the rules. And now it is acceptable. So Brock Purdy is a New England Patriot once again. Him and the Texans first going to the Pats for Tyler Huntley and Tyler Johnson's contract, which was about $90 million in cap space, if I remember correctly, between the two of them. For as well as the Colts first and the Jets first. So for those keeping score at home, that's the 107 and the 128, with two bad contracts for Brock Purdy and the 122.
I think that's a fantastic deal for both of you, especially because Patriots got to renegotiate Purdy down. The two players involved are kind of hilarious, just how much their cap hit was, and to make that a doable trade, I think that's great. Have you cut them yet?
Yeah, they've already been cut.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
think this is probably pretty polarizing of like a set of moves. At least as we consider what chat was kind of saying, like the double renegotiation and how that's a bit of a loophole. Did you, Mike? Did you know that he could double like renegotiate him? Was that like part of your guys' like conversation?
See, Giants, this is where it's helpful to join on. We talked about this a little bit. It had come up. A different owner had reached out to me about interested in Purdy because he thought, hey, with a 4-year deal, he could potentially be renegotiated again. We double checked the bylaws. Neither of us saw a situation where he needed to get renegotiated. So it was something that we had thought about. It was not Patriots who reached out to me about that. I'm not going to reveal that owner. I'm going to leave that to him if he wants to reveal who he is in chat or otherwise. But when after trying extensively, like 6 or 7 different trades with that owner to try and make a deal, we couldn't. So I walked away and knew that Pats was interested in Purdy last year and sent that offer. And then after he picked him up, I had mentioned, hey, you could potentially renegotiate Purdy. It's something I was talking about with another owner, and gave it a shot, and Jeremy was on board with it. So I think what Jeremy and Chris were saying makes a lot of sense. In a situation where you can renegotiate half the contract, two renegotiations is 75% of the contract. Now with 25% doing this, you're getting 37.5%. So still potentially significant, but a whole lot less so than the 75%. So was not, again, done to try and circumvent the rules. The rules were kind of clear on this one. And the commission seemed pretty satisfied that with the reduced amount that can be maximized through renegotiation, that should dissuade stuff like this happening again.
Yeah, I see the future proofing kind of being handled with the rule change. Yeah, I think it's just like it's a one-off, kind of like milestone event. I feel like we'll be talking about like remember the Purdy double renege a couple of years from now. So yeah, I think it's good for Pats. I mean, when the trade first happened, I was like I couldn't believe he did that early pick for him. Especially considering what Purdy was going for last year. Obviously pre-renegotiation, but yeah, I mean, with the newfound price and what you hope is going to be like a top 10 QB, it's not too bad. It's still like a little rich for me, but I'm glad he got his guy and like his master plan kind of like came into fruition here.
Yep. Everybody's happy, and that's a good thing. Speaking of everyone being happy, Colts continue to acquire 26 first-round picks. I think he's trying to get 26 first-round picks. So, let's make some dreams come true here. Giving up Josh Palmer and Jaden Reed to get the 25 pick from the Falcons, which I think is the 12th or 13th pick. And then the Falcons 26 first as well. So if it's possible to have too many wide receivers, Falcons is going to push that envelope. But now has in his receiver room, Zay Flowers, Chris Godwin, Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, Jaden Reed, Curtis Samuels, and Christian Watson. So he's got some depth to make some future moves if he wants to round some other things out. But there's a strategy of doubling down on a strength, and Nate, as his first trade in the league, decides that he's going to double down on some strengths.
Yeah, I wonder if he's following like the Lions approach, which he mentioned in chat today. It was just like he likes certain guys, he goes and acquires them, and he doesn't want to move them. And maybe Reed or Palmer or both of them were such guys, and he'll flip some of those other receivers now that were maybe aren't his cup of tea. Big splash. I'm always a little dubious of like a new owner coming in and immediately trading their firsts. But especially like in that division, that's pretty competitive. So something to monitor here is we see how he can build on some of the weaknesses of that roster.
Yeah, I'm looking at what he's going to lose. So he's at 100 years right now. Flacco's going to go. Minshew's going to go. Two of his tight ends are going to go. I wouldn't be shocked if he let David and Kendricks walk, just because those are going to bring back comp picks.
Yeah. I mean, he could tag one of those. He could tag one of them, just because the comp pick is going to be worse. Once you already get one.
Yeah, third round comp pick is worth it. A fourth might not be.
Yeah, exactly. And like David might retire. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna do like a whole. Usually for like a new owner, we'll do like here's what we would do type of a situation. I don't know if we plan to do that.
I mean, we can go into that now. We've kind of covered the trades, so we can go in, I think, a little bit to what he's got to work with at the moment.
Burn it to the ground. No, the defense needs a complete overhaul, and I am not jumping for joy at that offense. It's deep, but it's like a whole bunch of deep wide receiver twos and running back twos. Like, sure, Zay stands out, and like Ladd looked really good, but what happens when LA actually starts to pick up wide receivers this year? So like, probably going to have to lose some of that offensive depth to like actually build up a defense.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his. I don't know. Panthers is always like railing on the former owner, my brother, for like not having a defense. Like he just doesn't have enough depth. Like he doesn't have like a star defensive end or linebacker, but he had like plenty of points at those positions. It's
No,
just
but you can't.
It was a little not.
But
Dante Fowler. So like
Dante Fowler isn't 178 a season type of player. This one stands out as like he's never done that before, and he's 30. So like I don't think that's going to be repeatable. So like sure, like he did have players, but you can't like this new owner can't go into the next season like banking on like these are the points that they're going to put up this year also.
Yeah, no, that's true. All I was saying was like I don't like he doesn't need to move like the entirety of this like offensive.
No, I can agree with that, but when you have 7 wide receiver twos or something like that, you can do fine with 5.
Yeah, but also every single one of those wide receiver twos are under $10 million. The two most expensive are Chris Godwin and Curtis Samuel. Now, Josh Palmer's about to get a hell of a lot more expensive, which is a problem. But he's got $14 million in cap space right now. Zeke's going to be gone, so that's 14 more. I feel like he's got to dump ETN. Getting value for him is going to be interesting. He's going to pick up 14 million-ish from his quarterbacks. And then Eric Armstead, I imagine, maybe you franchise tag him? I don't know. He wasn't all that impressive in Jacksonville this year in terms of scoring. So with Jenkins hopefully taking a step forward there with that and Jarrett, that probably gives you what you need at defensive tackle. But he's probably going to get to 60 million, drop that to 40 with the increase for Palmer.
I think we get another 25 million in cap space, so he's going to have 65 million in cap or so next year, something like 30 to 40 years to play with, and I think 4 or 5 roster spots to start. Maybe more like 5 or 7 in there. And your guys' point, need some attention at defensive end, linebacker. Probably needs some depth. McKinstry again was a rookie, so I think maybe there's an opportunity for him to grow into this, as well as Rakestraw, who again got injured pretty early on, but needs to pick up some depth there. But again, we can do that pretty well on the cheap, and his safety should be fine because I mean Petre was good until he got hurt, and Hufanga was pretty solid, just didn't really play this year because of his injury. Now, they brought in Mustafa to cover for him, and Mustafa had fits and starts. And San Francisco's got to figure out if they want to pay Hufanga, as well as everyone else that they have on their team right now, which could impact his value. But otherwise, from a defense perspective, D tackle and safety are probably fine. Corner is very addressable. It's just that end linebacker room. The combination of what he does with his 200-point players and what he does to replace some of that production.
Yeah, I think tight end too. I don't know if you mentioned that during that, but he definitely needs more like a real option there.
Just gotta
Yeah,
hope
and I mean,
Travis
he
Kelce
still has-
retires.
He's traded his 2 firsts, but otherwise he has his full complement of picks this year and next year to go with on this.
Yeah.
So we talked about tight ends. A second probably helps pick up what he needs to. Plus, I've always been a fan of Jared Wiley, and I think that's someone that'll be interesting to see this offseason. Gray had 115 points for him, and I think he's probably done in Kansas City, and Wiley is supposed to jump into that role, and he's got him locked up on the cheap, which I think is solid. Then, again, maybe one more of that kind of player there helps balance things. And then a bunch of money and draft picks can go into the defense. I guess the other thing I really want to consider here is what do you do with Anthony Richardson on this team? Because this is a team that you put a reliable starter at quarterback and then maybe take some of the upside juice that Anthony Richardson had at the beginning of the year and help address some other holes. But if I look at Richardson, just you can't trust him right now. Like QB 26 averaged just under 15 points a game when he played, but he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single-digit games in a row.
Yeah,
you take those out, and he's averaging north of 20. So it's a question of, again, this deal isn't necessarily on the table, but could you go to, the 49ers and offer him Anthony Richardson for Kirk Cousins and something?
not until Kirk has a job.
Yeah,
Well, again, this something is dependent on, when you're asking for it. But I'm just trying to see what else kind of makes some sense there. Because
yeah, I mean, if he could take Richardson into like a downgrade, I mean, Kirk's probably not like the right guy just because he doesn't have a job, but like maybe even like Tua, who seemingly should have a job, and Tua.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to find somebody who was going to be a step down in terms of QB quality, in terms of expected points, but yet a little more stable. And there's not a whole lot of those, unfortunately.
You have Derek Carr would be one, maybe like a Russ. You're digging around with like very, very old like vets at that point. If you believe that Dak's going to have a job, maybe Dak. Matt
What
Stafford.
if
although-
Dak is going to have a job? He's 1000% the Cowboys starter next year.
Is he? I don't know.
The contract.
Jerry Jones.
He's locked in just because of the contract. That Bills would be interesting though. Like, you know, I know he's been the Dak truther forever, but like,
I can see the Bills doing a lot of things. I can't see Bills moving Dak Prescott in this league ever. So Eric is more than welcome to prove me wrong, but that just does not seem on brand for him at all.
Maybe you gamble and go get like Justin Fields plus.
Well, I mean, the Bears have Justin Fields, and I don't know about that.
I just so like this brings up the
maybe Trevor
fact that
Lawrence, Steelers, doesn't really want to pay him.
not at the price that he paid for Trevor though.
I mean, sunk cost, man.
True. I just don't know how Richardson gets you like Richardson, who is like wildly inconsistent, and we can see him being unemployed after next year, or at least not a starter, I should say. I don't know how he gets flipped into like somebody with a like roughly the same age, maybe a little bit older, with a far more stable position.
Oh, it's purely just based off of the contract
Yeah,
numbers.
because I think like Trevor could play like shit for probably 2 more years, and like nobody's gonna take him on. Like he was the #1 pick, and he was so highly regarded. Like he's earned like 3 years of garbage playing before anybody even considers benching him.
I mean, aren't we there?
I don't know. I maybe that's because everybody had such high hopes. I always expected like he'd be slightly better than average. So like if he's slightly below average, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's a good deep dive for him. I think, what he does in his DN and linebacker positions is going to be interesting, and then how he utilizes that receiver depth with his other needs, and then major decisions to be made at the quarterback and running back position. So, definitely not coming from a position of weakness in that roster. I think he has plenty of very interesting things to move, and having 6 wide receiver 2s at under $5 million in terms of current cap hit is not a really bad thing to have as a starting point. All right. Any other new owners that we have so far? Or is it just Falcons?
I think it's just Falcons.
Just Falcons. Somehow Jags hasn't been replaced yet.
Yeah. So this might be the lowest turnover we've had in the league.
That's excellent. I'll take it. All right. Well, 15 minutes to start. People are still kind of warming up into the offseason here, trying to figure out what people want to move, what people don't want to move, and where people are trying to go. So, I'm not too upset. Again, 3 days in, and good amount of positioning and people trying to figure some stuff out. So let's keep figuring some stuff out and keep the moves happening, because that's when the league is the most fun. But we'll get to the fun part here for our conversations. It's always fun talking with the Giants is already dropped. That is surprising, but at least RJ and I'll talk through kind of what we're trying to do here. Maybe we'll send out a few offers. And if you want to join the conversation, let us know, and we'll get you pulled in here. But in the meantime, appreciate those who listen, both live and after the fact. And we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody.